So right now our players are resolving mulligans and whatnot, and then they will be good to start. Right now we have, looks like our seat 1 is Sebastian. Let's see, they're on Crom Timna. Sebastian on Crom Timna. Timna Crom T and K Blue Farm, whatever your flavor of that is. Let's see, I believe that'll be in the bottom right for our seat 1. Our seat 2 will be Josh on cEDH, sort of a mixed cEDH list, it looks like. And that will be in your bottom left. Our top left, our seat 3 is Austin. Austin on, looks like Kefka from Final Fantasy. The enters the battlefield or attacks. Each player discards, and you draw a card for each type discarded. And then our seat 4, our top right-hand corner, Rao, the blue-red Rao from Modern Horizons 3. That will be Cam. So we'll talk about our players here a little bit. So we are in round 2 here at Tricky's Cards and Games for a MindBreak cEDH event. Only 3 pod wins last round. One of those was on camera, where our player Nathaniel on Dargo Timna stole the show with a turn 2 ad nauseum into a turn 3 win. Josh here in the bottom left-hand corner, also with 5 points from their win. Again, another kind of middle effect. I know we talked a little bit about cEDH list last time, and our cEDH player this time is going to be on a handful more of Planeswalkers, handful more mid-range lists than some other decks here that would be playing cEDH. So that's our seat 2, Josh. Again, our seat 1 being Blue Farm. Blue Farm, pretty standard Blue Farm for, from all things considered, right? You have your Thoracle win cons, your Lothos, Tarus. We're going to be having Wheels and Breach combos galore, some silence effects, some good counter spells, and some good engines like Smothering Tithe, Rhystic, and Mystic. So just a classic list here that you would expect to see, but from a very phenomenal player that we have. That will be, again, our seat 1. Sebastian drew Cam in the top right corner of your screen, our seat 4 on Rao, Flip Rao from Modern Horizons 3. That player also did draw in round 1. And then we have our 3rd seat, Austin, who also drew in round 1. So we have a pod full of players who were able to convert some amount of points out in round 1. So as our players resolve mulligans, again, let's continue talking about their deck list. So we've already talked about our Blue Farm list, pretty standard. Newest card into this list is, in fact, Hexing Squelcher from Laurel and Eclipse. 2 mana, 2/2, can't be countered, ward, pay 2 life, and then gives all of your spells the ability to not be countered, gives all your creatures the ability of ward, pay 2 life. So a lot going on with the new sets coming out. Laurel and Eclipse, Final Fantasy, of course, a lot of these cards have become mainstays in this format. Our Josh, seat 2 in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, again on a handful of Planeswalkers. In fact, won our last round with a combination of Nicol Bolas and Saheeli Rai Flicker in order to win the game there. So the Animatu, Saheeli, all that stuff going on. Dahada for the minus to grab some treasures. So a combination of all that was the enabler for the win in our round 1 for our cEDH player. Again, a lot of cool stuff from the new sets. Spider Woman, the ability to have artifacts and creatures your opponents come in tapped at 2 mana rather than The closest comparison to that being Thalia, Garden of Thraben, or sorry, the other Thalia, Heretic Cathar, at 3 mana, so being a 2 mana option is very important there, along with Flash Thompson, both from the Spider-Man set. So a lot of new cards making an impact inside of this format. Cam here on the Flip Row, red-blue, red on the front, red-blue on the back from Modern Horizons 3. Only playing 11 creatures, but as you would expect, every single one of these are heaters from this manual Storm deck is going to want to look to go off as soon as possible. So a lot of great cards here, a lot of wheels, Echo of Eons, Will of the Jeskai, of course, Wheel of Fortune, Time Twister among them, and a handful of kind of some obscure cards, and I'm excited to see if they will end up seeing play. Maybe a Gut Shot here, Demand Answers there, a handful of very cool cards that you don't really see anywhere else inside of the format. And that's how our players will shake out, as it looks like 3 out of 4 of our players are good with their opener. So we're going to go ahead and see if our player is going to bottom, and looks like that will happen, so we'll get started here in just a moment. Alright, looks like we are all ready to start our games here. Again, in round 2 of our MindBreak Magic cEDH event here at Tricky's Cards and Games in Kathleen, Georgia. And we thank you all for being a part of it. Everyone here watching on stream or watching post-haste, as well as everybody here physically today. Been a great help. As we see, you start with a Mox Diamond. And that looked like a fetch into an Arcane Signet from our Seat 1 player Sebastian on Blue Farm. So fetch, Underground Sea, Arcane Signet, Mox Diamond, the play. Looks like a starting town from our Seat 2 player as they'll pass the turn, and looks like Shu will be on the other foot. And we'll pass the turn to our Kefka player. And then we got land going here for our Kefka player. Thank you, Felwar Stone. These cards are a lot of alternate arts here, but as we see, it'll get passed down to our Seat 4 player, our Rao player, who will fetch. And let's see what they want to do here. And they're going to go ahead and pass back to our Seat 1 player. It will pay 2 mana for a Lotho, and looks like on the end step potentially we'll have a Worldly Tutor, I believe. So already a good bit of action here at the start of our game. And we're excited to have you guys here. So Arcane Signet for, looks to be Worldly Tutor. to go to our player's turn. Well, they'll play Misty Rainforest and a Deafening Silence, which will absolutely hose a handful of these players here at the table. Kind of back-breaking for our Ral player. Only a handful of cards in hand, though, after the mulligan, so that must have been an enlightened tutor in order to go grab that Deafening Silence at the end step of our bottom right-hand corner Blue Farm player, Crom Timna. And back to our bottom left corner, Seat 2 on their second turn, again with the Misty Rainforest. Fetch land into Tundra after the Deafening Silence cast, so only creatures here, but it doesn't matter because a Soul Ring plus white will be a cEDH, as the Lotho will trigger to the right, bottom right hand corner, making a treasure and losing a life for our Seat 1 Blue Farm player, as they'll get passed over to Kefka. We'll have Volcanic Island into Prowess Monk. Get the name of that card. It gives the ability to double the enters the battlefield effects of all wizards. And we'll pass over to our Seat 4, as we'll go land. And pass back over to our Seat 1 player. And we got a lot of mana here going, so let's go ahead and get a Timna out. And it looks like our Ral player does have no creatures. But 2 damage over to the cEDH player, Josh, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So there will be a Timna second main phase, post-combat main phase activation. Pay 1 life, draw 1 card. Pay X life, draw X cards for the amount of opponents that were dealt combat damage. Here we go with a Lion's Eye Diamond. That'll be double spell for our Blue Farm player on their own Lotho, Sebastian. And looks like that'll be a pass the turn, as our friend Josh in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen on cEDH will draw for turn. We'll play a Volcanic Island. And we'll see what they want to do. A lot of mana up, but not 5 colors just yet. So we'll have to see what they want to go do, how they want to start attacking this board, although only 1 non-creature spell from Deafening Silence does shake that up a lot. Does make it hard for really a majority of these players at the table, although Sebastian in Seat 1 having the advantage of being in Seat 1 as per usual is of all Seat 1s is certainly just as ahead. So we'll have to see how they want to attack that. And it looks like we got an Emil the Blessed on the table for 4. White Soul Ring, as our players want to decide, and looks like that will resolve. Here's 2 mana, 1 with the starting town, so they'll lose a life, into a Tataru Taru. Second spell for the turn, let's not forget about Lotho. Loco will be triggered. That'll be 3 treasures. And looks like they're going to choose who to draw. Looks like our bottom left-hand corner is trying to talk it out, but it looks like he initially wanted to do top right corner, but in response to that, here's a Fairy Mastermind. Whenever an opponent draws a second card each turn, you draw a card. Bang. So, Fairy Mastermind trigger. Bang. Draw a card, and now there should be two tap treasures from Tataru, because both players drew cards not on their turn. Well, I guess that only happens once each turn. Correction. Magic is hard, but that'll be Tataru. We'll get the one treasure still, even through that Fairy Mastermind. So it'll be our seat 3 on Kefka. We'll get a Bloodstained Mire Pass. Again, still threatening the creature that doubles triggers of the wizards. Kefka being one type of wizard. We'll go to the untap. We'll go to Raoul's turn. And it looks like we got a little bit of talk here about what's going on. It looked like they untapped. I could be wrong, though. It could still be in our seat 3. So we are just looking at, I think, how to deal with this Deafening Silence and deal with the two players in the bottom half of your screen. Sebastian and Josh. Sebastian on your bottom right, Josh on your bottom left. Blue Farm and Sisse, respectively. And this is the players exchanging a lot of information here, having a great time. That's what we like to do here, as we are, in fact, on our seat 4's turn 3. They will play a Arid Mesa. Here's some mana, here's some dice. Let's see what we want to do. Looks like we're leaving one floating off of the Soul Ring into a Rao. So there's the creature. We still have not cast a singular non-creature spell, but Rao does give the ability to discount all instants and sorceries by 1 and flip Rao. The flip side of Rao is enabled by tanking the front side of Rao and the ability to flip it when you do win the coin flip, in order to flip it over to the backside and ultimate the backside, revealing the top basically a million cards of your library and winning the game. So that seems to be a very good play, but a little bit slow here, a little bit post-haste on the Deafening Silence. So I know our Rao player Cam is very frustrated, I'm sure, not being able to say anything about the Deafening Silence, not having the ability to possibly, maybe no counter spells, or maybe just wanting to tank for the right time. So it will go back to our seat 1, so we're first in turn 4. It'll be a Mana Confluence as they will untap. Arcane Signet, Mox Time, Lotho, one treasure, Fey Mastermind. A lot of stuff going on this board. Even though you have 2 lands, this player can still be incredibly ahead. No other second cards drawn for turn, post the Tataru from Josh in our bottom left. So the Fey Mastermind has not been able to accrue as much advantage as I'm sure that any player playing that would like. But here's 2 in the air, and that's going to go at Sisse to our bottom left, and a Timna to the Rao. Rao will be very unlikely, or our Rao player will be very unwilling to block with that, is the assumption here. So there's 4 points spread across 2 players, 2-1 and 2-2 coming in. As that will give Timna the ability to gain 2 life, pay 2 life, keeping our seat 1 player, Sebastian, in his first turn 4 on Blue Farm at 35 life, by giving them an extra 2 cards, so that will put them from 4 to 6 cards in hand. No spells have been cast this turn, so Lotho's still at a big 0. No cards drawn outside of the turn after Tataru was played. So 1 treasure tapped over there for Josh. I believe they're talking about the discussion around blocking, around drawing cards, about enabling each other. Our Kefka player has been left in the dust post the Deafening Silence, as has our Rao player, the top half of the board, struggling with that piece, which has done a lot of work so far in some of these games, and some of the past games as well here for our bottom left-hand player, Josh. And looks like Rao did eat the block. Rao, being a 1-3, does not die to a 2-2 Timna. So only 1 card and 1 life lost. So we'll net +1 after the Timna lifelink. So 5 cards in hand. First spell for the turn. We're paying 3 mana. We're going to cast a card. We're going to correct our mana, make sure we get it right. 1 damage for the Mana Confluence. Here's a Ranger Captain of Eos. So being able to search for a creature card converted mana cost 1 or 0, and then being able to silence the board off of a triggered ability, or correction, activated ability, but an ability nonetheless is in fact very hard to interact with. That's just more food against the Rao player and the Kefka player here, as I'm sure they are incredibly excited to see a Ranger Captain of Eos hit the board. And it looks like we'll get a tutor. A handful of options for the deck. We got a DRC, Esper Sentinel, Mockingbird, Ragavan, sort of your greatest hits in blue farm at 1 or 0. So we'll have to see what our blue farm player would like to pick up. There's a handful of good pieces here on the board, making your Mockingbird a good judgment, but that looks like a Dragon Rage Chandler. I cannot tell. That text box tells me a lot, though. And looks like it will be a cast. And second spell, Lotho Trigger, will go on the stack. That will resolve. And you know what? Sebastian says he's done here. That is Dragon's Rage Channeler. To be clear to all our folks at home, that full art card, Dragon Rage Channeler, whenever you cast non-creature spells, Surveil 1 and Delirium, it will have +2/+2 flying and must attack each combat. So that will be the end of our blue farm player in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're just joining us, this is round 2. This is seat 2 in the bottom left. Our cEDH player, seat 2, turn 4. It's only the second turn 4 of this game, as we are here hosting our MindBreak Magic cEDH event here at Tricky's Cards and Games in Kathleen, Georgia. We appreciate everyone for coming out here physically and being here in the chat, watching our games with us, going through maybe some audio struggles that we got going here, but we appreciate you here nonetheless. We are here to see the competitiveness of our players and the ability to win the game, as they will try to present their way in on this. Our seat 2 player, cEDH, will just untap and pass, which is not a bad spot to be in for them. That's 5 colors, as our Kefka player will use Bloodstained Mire to fetch Undercity Sewers and Surveil 1, and they'll play a land. I think that's the Command Tower special art. And it looks like a fetch, possibly proceeding to the end step. Wait, I guess the Command Tower was the Pineapple Land. I think that might be Mana Confluence as well, but certainly a lot of colors here. As our top right-hand corner, seat 4 player, Cam, will be fetching. Now, I'm not sure if that's a response to moving phases to the end step or what, but post-Mana Confluence play, or Kefka player Austin in the top left-hand corner of your screen is sitting with 5 permanents on the board, 4 of which are land. We have a Command Tower, Undercity Sewers, Volcanic Island, and Mana Confluence, along with the Wizard that doubles the doubles the triggered abilities of Wizards and Shamans you control. So obviously a big boom with Kefka, meaning double ETB plus double attack is pretty brutal, as we'll see a Thundering Falls fetched up from our Rao player off of the Arid Mesa on the end step of our top left-hand corner Kefka player. We'll see a Rao, a Soul Ring, Mana Vault, and looks to probably be a Volcanic Island along with another land. And we got a Thundering Falls. So Thundering Falls Surveil Trigger will resolve, and that looks like that'll stay on top. So we'll go ahead and take it over to our 4th seat, the final turn 4 of this turn cycle. Here's 1 mana. Tapped correctly. And it looks like we got the Spider-Man card, discard a card, draw 2, which will be the 1 non-creature spell. There's the Rao flip. So it looks like that Rao flip succeeds, and Rao does not want to flip. No life lost. And looks like we'll bang, draw 2. Romantic Rendezvous, I believe, without looking. It is Romantic Rendezvous. Go me, I'm locked in. Discard a card, draw 2 cards. Sorcery Speed. And looks like second creature played for Rao. A little hard to see. Could be a Stormkiln Artist, potentially. So we'll get that figured out for you real quick as the Lotho will trigger. We'll pass on over to our seat 1, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Blue Farm. And they will draw. They will play Tundra. And we'll see what they get up to. A lot of scary pieces on the board. Felwar Stone, Mox Diamond, Dragon Race Chandler, Lotho, 3 Treasures, Timna, Fey Mastermind, Lion's Eye Diamond, and it looks like we're going to go straight to attacks as the Ranger Captain of Eos. 3/3 will come in, along with the flyer of Fey Mastermind. And we'll see where all that's going when our players put their life totals down. So it looks like we're kind of debating on where the attacks are going potentially. Maybe debating about doing stuff inside of combat. They're definitely really hard pressed in order to let the Blue Farm player grab 2 more cards. It will cost them 2 more life, I suppose. That will put them at 33 life instead of the current 35 with no Timna attack. No Delirium yet for the Dragon Race Chandler. The DRC, just 2 lands in the graveyard. Fetch land and potentially a City of Brass or a Mana Confluence also in the graveyard there. So land does not mean Delirium. No 4 types, so we'll have to see where this goes. I do agree with our comments that our Sisay player is able to grab something if Blue Farm goes for the breach in order to stop it, maybe an Agathis, but here comes a Gut Shot. We talked about that at the beginning of the match of being a very interesting card for our Rao player. We have a Rao trigger on the stack. And it'll be Gut Shot to, I believe, Fey Mastermind, as that's the only relevant creature with 1 toughness. So we'll see where this goes. To our players, a Gut Shot certainly dampens the efficiency of our Blue Farm player, but still being able to attack for 3, feeling like you're going to be unblocked, drawing a card is pretty good. So we'll have to see where they go from there. And Stormkilling Artist will trigger, in fact. Cast it or copy the spell. We'll have Treasure. Looks like that Gut Shot will go through. Fey Mastermind will go to the graveyard, and Austin up in the top left will take 3. So lose 1 life from the Ranger Captain of Eos. And it looks like we're going some mana here for a Grand Abolisher. That's a scary sight here with all the cards in hand from our Blue Farm player. You don't really expect a Grand Abolisher pass these days. Nice Eric Deschamps signature there on the Grand Abolisher, as our players will talk about what to do, how they're going to stop this, if they're going to be pushing a win. Now, we don't have access to Table Talk, as we mentioned earlier. Here at MindBreak Magic cEDH events at Tricky's Cards and Games, we don't have a player mic, so we can only imagine what they're talking about, but I would be worried. Again, the ability to find something out. The ability to find something that would be able to grab Breach or grab Savine Reclamation, you know, anything like that would be able to sort of turn this game on its head pretty quickly. I did see a couple of cards in the hand of our Blue Farm player, so we'll have to see what our players want to do here. It looks like from the hand counter spells are going to be the only thing kind of locked in here. The Grand Abolisher will need to, they're pointing to the Deafening Silence here, so potentially that Deafening Silence could stop our players, as Riley up there in the top right cannot, in fact, help this board state if he did have a counterspell. He's already cast his 1 non-creature spell for the turn, so we're left to 2 players to be able to respond to this. Grand Abolisher probably lands, and we'll see potentially a bounce off of the Deafening Silence. we'll see where this goes from here, but Grand Abolisher on the table certainly is not the most ideal situation. Looks like 4 or 5 cards in hand, could be 4 cards in hand for a blue farm player here in the bottom right hand corner of our screen. And this is the first turn of turn 5, so as we see all the time, pretty often with our cEDH coverage, either here, any other coverages that you might see a big swing towards the win rate of our seat 1 player. That is something that cannot be overstated, that is definitely a thing. However, we'll see if any of these players have something to stop that. Being able to have the first land drop, the first spells, the first extra mana of our turn 5 is a big boon to our blue farm player here, Sebastian, the bottom right hand corner of your screen, in which we have a Grand Abolisher potentially on the stack. No way to know if it's resolved yet. I think our players are still talking about how to work ourselves through this. There is certainly no way to cast Breach and then continue the line, because Deafening Silence will still exist unless there's a creature-based bounce spell for the enchantment, which is pretty hard to find these days, I will say. Looks like our players are still talking about that. Yeah, definitely a huge threat, being able to either search or just have it raw in hand. Probably expecting a handful of counterspells, but maybe not, because the Deafening Silence does sort of put a damper on the counterspells from our blue farm player. If they counter your spell, you counter them back, you are left open to the third player at the table for a counterspell. You are also not able to cast any more non-creature spells for the rest of the turn. So it really is a double-edged sword, even though they do have 6 untapped, unpunishable mana, plus the 3 from LED. The Lion's Eye Diamond there on the left side of our seat 1 player's playmat in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. So I think they're just trying to figure out how to tackle this in the most efficient way. Possibly even a bounce of the Deafening Silence. Looks like Josh will pass priority over the Grand Abolisher, and we'll have card. Looks like Tainted Pact to me. We'll have a Tainted Pact. We'll have to see what that is going to get. Like the mystical archives from Strixhaven. Just gonna have to, that's not the name of card, that's the exile, the top, until you grab a card. Again, that will be the last non-creature spell. Wow, ad nauseum. Straight flip off the top, but we don't really need that here. I'm not really sure what goes and gets the win, because again, already the first non-creature spell from our Kefka player up there in the top left-hand corner of the screen, who's responding to Grand Abolisher on the stack in the bottom right. I'm not sure what goes and saves the game here, as they've already used their non-creature spell through Deafening Silence in the bottom left. But here we have a very complicated stack, and we have a lot of things left to do, a lot of game left to be played, potentially, if there is an ability to stop this Grand Abolisher. As if you're just joining us, you've picked a great time. We are in round 2. We are in turn 5 of our MindBreak Magic cEDH tournament at Tricky's Cards and Games. The bottom left-hand corner of your screen, if you're tracking the stack, is a Grand Abolisher. Up in the top left is a Tainted Pact going off in response to the Grand Abolisher. Now there is also a Deafening Silence in the bottom left, making sure that the top right and top left players, both of our top side players, will not be able to cast non-creature spells the rest of this turn. They have already used theirs. Top right has used a Gut Shot. Top left has used a Tainted Pact. It is all on Josh in the bottom left, Sisse, in order to manage how they would like to fight this Grand Abolisher. It's certainly possible. Being able to grab something like an Agatha's only does so much in the face of a Grand Abolisher. So we'll have to see what that unlocks. Looks like it was a pass. Looks like the Grand Abolisher did in fact land, and that was at the end step potentially. That is an untap after the grabbed Underground Sea, so it did look like it went through Josh's turn there in the bottom left, and now it is up to the top left. Our Kefka player on 5 mana after playing the Underground Sea that they just Tainted Pact for. So here's 5 mana, here's a Kefka. With the double trigger, that will mean our players will discard 2 cards, potentially, and it looks like everyone is okay with that hitting, at least for the moment. Yeah, there's 1, and so let's see how many cards are going to be drawn here. Everybody's kind of got their card. Looks like we got Sticker, Goblin, Feybarrow Elder, unknown card, and land. So 1, 2, and it looks like that'll be 3 for at least creature, land, and another card that is a little difficult to see. But that'll still be 3 cards in the face of our players. Drawn. And then we have second Kefka trigger. So this card, Harmonic Prodigy, says if an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers trigger that ability in additional time. So that's what we're looking at there from the black and white Modern Horizons 2 card on the board, but it looks like a cEDH activation. We'll go ahead and grab Agatha Soul Cauldron. So we'll have to focus on that for now. Agatha Soul Cauldron will come out. No spell casted, non-creature type from our cEDH players. All of our players are still unlocked under the Deafening Silence. Looks like maybe Wheel of Fortune, the One Ring, Mental Misstep. 1, 2, 3 cards drawn from our Kefka player. Can't quite tell what that full art is, but doesn't matter now, it's already gone. And looks like that will be the second Kefka trigger here, as our comments are pointing out. Definitely could have been more advantageous for Josh there in order to activate the cEDH. Grab some lines from cEDH plus a meal. So we're kind of just waiting to see what our top left player Austin is going to do in the face of that. Do have Mox Opal played after both Kefka triggers have resolved, which drew 6 cards total across everything. So a net 4 cards for our top left Kefka player, Austin. And that will be the second spell for turns that will trigger Lotho. So if you saw the dice count in the bottom right corner go up, that will be the Lotho trigger from Mox Opal. Potentially a move to the end step, move to clean up, and we'll discard a card. And it'll be pass of the turn. So here we go on to Cam in the top right hand corner of your screen. This is seat 4. This is the last turn 5 of the turn cycle. And here we go. We'll get 2 mana. And we'll play a card. Awesome. I love looking up cards. Looks like a Quiet Speculation potentially with the Row triggers. Ska, Stormkill, and Artist will make a treasure off of the cast. We'll benefit one, we'll lose the other off of the 1 damage from Row trigger. And Quiet Speculation, I don't think that was the card because it looks like he's looking at the top few cards of his library, so that could have been a stock up. It is hard to see. That did look like stock up amount of cards. Look at the top 5, put 2 in your hand. So there is some amount of cards here. So it could be digging to figure out how we're going to deal with this Grand Abolisher right now. as Storm Count proceeds to be 1 on our RAL player's turn, with 1 RAL activation succeeding. Correction, RAL trigger succeeding. And Vexing Bobble, maybe I'll just show you a card in my hand for no reason. Potentially, Vexing Bobble is... It's there. It does shut off the Lion's Eye Diamond Breach line, certainly, but in the face of a Ranger Captain of EOS, it is certainly a complicated board state here. We have a Ranger Captain and a Grand Abolisher down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, so a Vexing Bobble is certainly hard-pressed to be able to win the game, but it does stop Lion's Eye Diamond from being cast, because it's a card that cost, that no mana was spent to play. So we'll have to see what our players want to do. With that information here, as that's face up. Looks like 1 mana should still be there for the Soul Ring, because no spell was cast post the stock up. And it looks like they're deciding if they want to draw, if they want to think who wants to take the win here, as only one of our players has a win so far. But it looks like, well, there's some stuff on the end step, as our RAL player Cam was going to pass the turn. Looks like we got the Soul Cauldron from the Sisay will activate on itself on the Fadeburrow Elder, I believe is the name of that card, but it taps for 1 color of every type you have in play. And it looks like we'll pass over to Sebastian. And looks like we're going to see how that Grand Abolisher plays out here. I can't imagine that a Grand Abolisher pass is going to lose the game, but you never know. Looks like a Diabolic Intent potentially on the Grand Abolisher as an additional cost, and it looks like that will be the case. Potentially knowing that our players do not have a lot of counter magic in hand, or they would have cast it before, they would have cast it on anything else. Looks like Diabolic Intent will be good to resolve. Additional cost sacrificing that Grand Abolisher. We're going to go get a card. And still a lot of mana to work with here. 4 treasures with the potential 5th on the way after the 2nd card cast on this turn, as Diabolic Intent will be the first card. So potentially 5 treasures plus the Felwar Stone, Mox Diamond, LED, Mana Confluence. So it seems like a pretty good lock here. It seems easy to expect the Breach will be grabbed, Breach will be played. Well, I guess there still has to be an answer for Deafening Silence, so potentially something like an Otawara or something of that nature in order to be able to get rid. Sans green, being able to bounce that enchantment is a little bit difficult, but Otawara does do that. And then here we go with the Diabolic Intent. Looks like we're all shuffled up, ready to take another game action here. Looks like potentially going to combat. Here we go with the Dragon Rage Channeler. Looks like we do have Delirium online. Instant Sorcery, Land Creature. There's Delirium. +2/+2 flying. Must attack each combat. So here goes 3 down from Josh. Lose 1, pay 1 for the Timna on Sebastian. Post-combat main phase, and we're in main 2. This is round 2 of MindBreak Magic cEDH tournament. If you're just tuning in, looks like we have a very large board state going on, but our first turn of turn 6 in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, Sebastian on Blue Farm, Timna, Crom. They've cast a Diabolic Intent on a Grand Abolisher, sacrificing that as an additional cost. Looks like a RAL cast in the post-combat main phase. Looks like getting rid of the Agatha Soul Cauldron. So just a counter left there. Looks like untimely malfunction. And Stormkiln Artist will trigger gain the treasure off of the casted card. So we'll see if our Seat 1 player Sebastian is able to do anything about that or wants to do anything about that. It looks like it'll just be a pass the turn, and we'll go back over to cEDH. That's probably what brought out the untimely malfunction from our RAL player being at the end step. We'll go over to the draw for the turn, the second turn 6 of this turn cycle. Bottom left-hand corner, seat 2, cEDH. Grand Abolisher was sacrificed with Diabolic Intent to grab a card in the pre-combat main phase. That led to Dragon Rage Chandler being able to have Delirium and attack for 3, giving a Tymna draw for 1 life. And now we're back over to Josh in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Let's see if we can find a way to piece this together. Still, unfortunately, with 4 colored mana, so not quite yet away in order to turn on the cEDH post the Fabro Elder discard and Agatha exile. So I guess they're sort of talking here about what's going on after the Agathas was destroyed from untimely malfunction. Last turn on the end step. Looks like that could have been a pass of the turn. We'll have to see exactly what's going on and what everybody's talking about. Here's a Soul Ring. Here's a Starting Town. Here's an Emil. And we're going to blink. It's like Tataru Taru is the target. 3 mana blinking Tataru Taru. We're going to select a player to draw a card in the main phase. Looks like trigger on the stack. We might have some responses here. See where that goes. See what players want to talk about. Again, giving Josh an additional treasure, although tapped. Card in hand from Sebastian was revealed. We'll have to see if our players want to do anything about that. This is definitely a very interactive game here with a lot of lines, a lot of patience from our players as well, in order to try to pick the best line for what the situation has given them. So it looks like Tataru Taru might get the chance to go off here. I think our players are just continuing to talk about how this Tataru Taru is going to affect the rest of this game. Again, still under the deafening silence, but potentially one of our players has an answer here. So we'll have to see where this goes. Again, I know it's 3 mana is available from Josh, our bottom left-hand corner cEDH player. Now we'll have to figure that out, as looks like they're talking, they're exploding behind me about the table, trying to figure out what's going on here. Oh, a lot of table talk here. Let's talk about how this game got here. Grand Abolisher wheeled around the table, an untimely malfunction to the Agatha Soul Cauldron. The deafening silence in play very early on in the game. I think turn 1 or turn 2 is definitely a lot of stuff that's still affecting this game right now, and trying to figure it out. But a draw is not advantageous to all of these players. As we talked about before, all of our players have 1 point with the exception of cEDH in the bottom left, who does have 5 points from a win last round. So we're trying to figure out potentially how to work together to combat what's going on the board state, but also push the win. You know, that's sort of the politic nature of cEDH. Like, you definitely want to have the ability to win the game, but you always want those deals, those politics, that table talk to be sort of in your favor here. And it looks like that's kind of what's going on, is the Taru trigger is still on the stack. Certainly not giving a card to the Kefka, I could imagine, as that Kefka will, if it gets to the turn, will definitely get to attack and trigger twice off of the Harmonic Prodigy. So that's certainly a threat there on the board. So maybe trying to entice the rest of the table to interact with either the Kefka or the Harmonic Prodigy. Interacting with Kefka on a bounce specifically is not the greatest, as the Taru trigger will eventually resolve. That will target Cam in the top right corner of your screen. So Taru will trigger once on this turn and get a tapped treasure for Josh. So I'll have to see potentially how that affects the rest of this game, how this affects potentially Josh or the Kefka player. Again, this Kefka is certainly in a threatening position. Not saying that some of our players aren't. A lot of the players are in threatening positions, but you know, on the turn before Kefka, there's a lot of stuff that can certainly happen here with the Harmonic Prodigy being able to double the double the triggered ability when Kefka goes to attack. We saw Austin in the top left on Kefka draw 6 cards and only discard 2 out of it. So really net 5 off of what they drew that turn. Now looks like it will pass the turn. That'll be the end of the Sisei turn there. No non-creature spells cast, no spells cast, as Taru just got the blink. But that does open Josh up next turn with all 5 colors, so that is important to note. And here comes a Kefka. In attackers, trigger, one Harmonic Prodigy. Here's 2 cards. We'll start with the first. Bang, bang, trigger. And we'll start with the first as Josh is sort of deciding what's going to be here. Maybe they're talking about how to stop our Kefka player from drawing as much as possible. And it looks like land, artifact, and artifact, land, artifact, planeswalker. So still 3 types that will be land, artifact, and planeswalker, correction. And second trigger will go on the stack. And we'll see what the second amount of discard draw will be. Kefka is not a small card. 4/5 at 5 mana. And looks like might still be deciding here just a little bit. You know, no reason to be impatient here. And looks like we got all 4 cards ready to go. Vexing Bauble, Fey Mastermind Pact, and the counterspell creature. So it'll be artifact creature instant. Airtie, I believe is the name of the card. Yes, Airtie Resurrected. So it'll be that. 3 more cards. And Austin up there on Kefka is certainly getting his advantage increased every time that Kefka trigger is allowed to go off. That's still 4 damage coming the way of our blue farm player. So I'll have to see how that is resolved and what they would like to. So I have to see where that damage is going, but a lot of unfortunate discards. I mean, Blue Farm having to discard that Pact, Vexing Bauble discarded from Rao. Does shake up the function of this game a lot here. And looks like an Ancient Tomb will be the play. As for 1 mana, we'll get this card. Give me a second. Essence Flux for 1 mana. It will blink the creature and then return it immediately. So, Essence Flux name of the card. So we're going to potentially see everyone's hand be gone. However, that is the one non-creature spell from our Kefka player. So our Kefka player, they have cast their one non-creature spell this turn, per the Deafening Silence in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Every other player in the game does have 2 or less cards. So the ability to bounce it, the ability to counterspell the Essence Flux as your one non-creature spell, knowing there won't be a counterspell on the way back, is certainly invaluable here, but is it possible? So we'll see everyone's hand gone at the end of all this as we're looking at some graveyards, and some Agatha, some Airtie, with this Essence Flux on the stack. And if I'm Austin, there's a draw offer, I'm saying no thank you. He is light years ahead. This will force our other players that are in threatening positions, our Ral, our Sisay, or Blue Farm, or to just purely draw out of something. And it looks like our Blue Farm player is asking about the graveyards, as more cards are being looked at here. Looks like Cam up there in the top right is probably saying, hey, you guys deal with it. They're certainly talking about it. The Essence Flux here will change the complexity of the game. Again, getting rid of the hand of every other player at the table. No tutors on top, just a lot of card advantage. There's a lot of things to do here from our Kefka player that will certainly enable them, push them over the edge if they're able to win the game. I mean, still, you're looking at 4, 6, 7 mana still untapped, only 2 of it being colorless, 3 of it being of any color, right, with the Command Tower Pineapple, the Mana Confluence Gathering card, and the Mox Opal. But one thing about the Mox Opal is, in fact, not turned on. So, potentially a 7, but currently a 6. So they're trying to figure out how to go about this, how to stop this Essence Flux. I do think that's probably a game, I mean, that's as close to a game winner as you can have, certainly. However, the Sisay player's not in a bad position. And looks like here is a Cyclonic Rift that was flashed on screen earlier, if our attentive viewers caught that. Cyclonic Rift, we'll see what the target is. Target could potentially be Kefka. That wouldn't be great because it does just get recast, but it could be on a Deafening Silence. And we'll have to see about, looks like it will be targeting the Deafening Silence, is what was implied there from the motion of our players. Kefka will have the ability to respond to this, but has already cast their non-creature spell, so if they had a creature that would be able to deal with this, that would be great. But there's only a handful of creatures that are able to interact in this way, and none of them are in Grixis, I don't think. So we'll definitely have to find ourselves unlocking ourselves from Deafening Silence, unlocking all the players from Deafening Silence. It does sound to me in this way that with all the interaction that's here, there's probably not a counterspell at the table. I feel like a counterspell would have been a Snap Keep, a Snap Throw. The second Essence Flux was cast. So if I'm the players, I'm thinking maybe they don't have it, and maybe the Deafening Silence is, maybe that ends up being a bigger deal for the Kefka player than it does for any other player at the table, right? With the other players at the table having, in clockwise rotation, 1, 1, and 2 cards in hand respectively, top right to bottom left. Maybe that Deafening Silence doesn't do a whole lot here. It is hard to know, but we'll have to see how they go at that. They've discounted the Ranger Captain card. They've discounted the Emil Blink I'm not sure where that goes. That would be incredibly helpful, but you know, there's definitely more than nothing that has happened here. Oh, it looks like 2 cards left in hand for Sebastian in the bottom right-hand corner. Correction, I said 1, so. And it looks like 2 mana in response will be a red elemental blast. So it looks like probably no Cyclonic Rift. It was just being talked about at the table, but we'll have a red elemental blast put on the stack. That will get rid of Essence Flux. I think it actually got rid of the Kefka, correction, so the Essence Flux will fizzle. So a lot of things our players could do, but again, a lot of our players here being patient. We do have some time left in the round, 17 overall in the round, and a little bit extra for some of our players in the feature match area here. But if you're just joining us, again, we are in round 2. We are going to the last turn of turn 6, I believe, here at MindBreak Magic cEDH event, hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games. And we've had a big game here. If you're watching live or you're watching after the fact, we appreciate you being here and staying with us, and we appreciate all of our players for coming out to this event. Looks like it will be going over to Raoul's turn. They will draw, they will pass, and on the end step, potentially our Kefka player, top left-hand corner, Austin, will have something to say about the end step. Here's 3 mana. Command Tower, Underground Sea, Volcanic Island. Here's a Strixhaven card. Or Shooting a Lot. That could potentially even be a Fiery Covenant, although I'm not sure if that was printed with that art. But we're targeting a lot of creatures here. And our player's talking about it. With the Deafening Silence in play, that will still be fine. All of our players are back unlocked to a non-creature spell. So, Fire Covenant will be back here. And looks like 1,000,000 points of damage. But we're going to be taking out the Lotho, the Ranger Captain, the Timna. I believe I saw Scott and Raoul, Stormkiln Artist and Raoul in the top right being pointed to. So, a huge life pay effect. I wasn't, in fact, tracking what our player was at before going to 19, but it is an additional cost in order to pay the life. So, Fire Covenant on the stack here. Again, if you're just joining us, we're in round 2. On the end step in the top right-hand corner, that's where we're at. Our top left-hand corner player, Kefka, Austin, they are holding priority to cast a Fiery Covenant on almost every single creature on the board. A Fire Covenant here would be disaster for a lot of these players. They spend a lot of time building up their board, building up their advantage, their engine, so to speak. And it is a lot. 16 life paid here. 35 to 19 assists from the comments. And looks like 3 mana for a Sisay Blink off of a meal. Maybe just tapping and floating some mana for some reason. So, or maybe it was a blink on the Sisay to have the Sisay not die to the Fiery Covenant, or Fire Covenant, correction. But there goes Emil. There goes a Ranger Captain, DRC, Lotho. I mean, the board just cleared out. Stormkiln Artist, Raoul. The absolute wrath across the board. Timna as well. So that'll be at the end step again on the top right corner. That was at the end step of our Raoul player's turn. So now down to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. This will start turn 7 for our players. Underworld Breach, hard cast, hard drawn potentially. Lion's Eye done play. Diabolic Intent in the graveyard. We're trying to decide the best, most effective way, most efficient way here, I guess, to tap for our mana as the Underworld Breach goes on the stack. This is a threatening position. Being able to just recast something outside of some sort of creature and then Diabolic Intent, potentially, also with Pact Backup, also in the graveyard. Here we go. Here's 3 mana. Here's Ranger Captain of Eos. Post the Underworld Breach, which has looked to resolve, as we're going to exile 3 cards as an additional cost to cast Ranger Captain of Eos. We go land, land, land. Not a hard question for our Breach user, our blue farm player in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, Sebastian on blue farm. Ranger Captain will tutor. There's a handful of options still left here in the deck. Looks like Mockingbird's going to be their preferred. Mockingbird will go to hand. There's 4 treasures available and a Lion's Eye Diamond, but let's not forget that was second spell play this turn, so one more spell unlocks MindBreak Trap, which could potentially be in the hands of some of our competitors here. Everyone but the bottom right. Bottom right presenting, going for the win certainly with Underworld Breach. Again, Underworld Breach resolve, recast Ranger Captain of Eos out of the graveyard. So now we have a silence effect in play. We have 7 mana available, a Mockingbird in hand. Mockingbird, I believe, is just able to be played as a Mockingbird. You get 3 mana there for Diabolic Intent, just off of your treasures alone. Being able to find something like a Brain Freeze. Yeah, Mockingbird, in fact, can be used there, so Mockingbird X0. We do need to figure out a way to get rid of this Deafening Silence, though. Non-creature spell has been cast for Underworld Breach, so that does certainly present a problem for these players in order to get around from the Sisay player. So here's 2 mana, here's a Fey Mastermind. Again, non-creature spells, as I've been yapping, I have forgot, non-creature spells are still unable to be cast more than once per turn with the Deafening Silence. So Mockingbird in hand will cast Fey Mastermind from the graveyard. So Fey Mastermind from the graveyard, Mockingbird in hand, potentially another card in hand, potentially an Otawara, if that is possible. Otawara it'd be hard pressed to be using one now, but I guess the option is still on the table in some fashion. Can't cast a Cyclonic Rift. Again, non-creature spell already been cast. Underworld Breach, as our player is certainly presenting the ability to win the game here, but maybe not quite there yet. Maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit off, as we'll go to the end step, and the Underworld Breach goes away. Maybe a Savine's Reclamation in the hand for our blue farm player Sebastian, but no time to worry about that. A Mockingbird is the only card that we know about, as in the bottom left-hand corner, Josh on Sisay will go to their turn, second turn of turn 6 here, and we'll play a Tarnished Citadel. Again, if you're just joining us, we're in round 2 at the MindBreak Magic cEDH event here, hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games. We appreciate everyone from showing up here, showing out in the comment section. We appreciate all of that. But now we are on to turn 6. We're getting close to some time in the round here. In the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we have Sisay, so potentially going to a time limit draw. We have Sisay, Tataru, 1 treasure, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Deafening Silence, 4 lands for Sisay. A lot of action has happened in just 6 turns here, and a lot of time has been taken. A lot of good game actions. A lot of thinking, a lot of thoughtfulness, and a lot of interaction here. As we'll go starting town 1 mana, or correction, 1 damage, Tarnished Citadel 3 damage. We're making 5 colors. It sounds like a Sisay. Sisay activation placed on the stack. Here's 2 mana. 3 mana from the Ancient Tomb for an opposition agent from our Kefka player. That's huge in the face of what could possibly be a win. the opposition agent is on the stack. 2 cards in hand from our cEDH player. I'm another player here. I'm saying, you guys figure this out. I'll take a draw. Maybe our blue farm player would feel differently. Maybe our Rao would feel differently if they had more than 1 card in hand. But being ravaged from Kefka over the course of the game, double trigger on enters, double triggers on attacks was very brutal, as it looks like opposition agent will resolve. So that will let our Kefka player search, exile a card, have access to that. Opposition agent to play in response to the cEDH activation. Gaia's Cradle was the selected from our opposition agent controlling player Kefka. So Gaia's Cradle will now be exiled and can be played, or it can be cast by opposition agents, so it cannot in fact be played. You may play those cards flying, they may exile, oh correction, you may play them. So Gaia's Cradle can in fact be played by opposition agent. Reading the card explains the card. And here we go, looks like a cEDH attack, potentially. Don't really know a whole lot of other tapping that would be benefited here. It looks like, you know, it took a little jump. But we are where we need to be with going to attackers, and looks like cEDH come in to our Kefka player. There's 3 damage on the board. And we're gonna see it go over to our Kefka player here. All players fighting, scrapping for the win. Expectations high. A top 10 cut, first and second seed in Swiss will get first and second seed in the finals, guaranteed. No extra game. Here comes a Gaia's Cradle being played. That gives 2 green to our Kefka player as the turn goes over to them and they draw. Opposition agent has found its way onto the board in response to the cEDH activation. That's where we stand. We're counting mana. We're trying to resolve another Kefka, would be my guess. Kefka resolution here would be absolutely brutal, but here's 2 damage, correction, from the Ancient Tomb. Here's a Kefka on the stack. Looks like we're not ready to resolve this yet. Looks like a Cyclonic Rift targeting Harmonic Prodigy. So we'll only get the 1 Kefka trigger right now. Harmonic Prodigy is 2 mana, so it could be able to be recast later. Alright, Kefka will resolve. 1 Kefka trigger. Let's see what's discarded here. Lotus Petal, Mental Misstep, Abrupt Decay, Mox, Diamond. So instant, artifact, artifact. We'll take 2 lands. Here's 2 mana back to Talisman. 1 damage off the Mana Confluence, and we'll pass over Rao. These players playing quick, they know what's at stake. They know a big win means big points for them in the tournament, and a big win does secure you right now. Is that a Mox Opal? That'd be really sad if it was a Chrome Mox, but I don't think it is. Here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rao, if I can do math correctly. Looks like the Soul Ring was just irrelevant in order to get Rao out there. Not a whole lot going on with a Storm player with a hand of 0. So now we have bottom right hand corner of your screen back to Sebastian. And they will go to untap. Thank you for asking the question. Time at our tournament, time in the round will be 1 player's turn, the active player, when time in the round happens for everyone. The active player will be able to finish out their turn or 20 minutes, whichever happens first. And then the game will end in a forced draw. So that is the way that it is working here at MindBreak Magic cEDH, here hosted at Tricky's Cards and Games. So we'll have 80-minute timer, 20 minutes of red time, and then a forced draw, or the active player will go to pass their turn, and that will be a forced draw anyways. So we have a lot still left to go. As we got some mana. Can't quite see that card. Looks like Mockingbird. Mockingbird X2, maybe a Ral, because he did point to Cam. But X2 doesn't. It should be X1 if it could be Ral, at being 2 mana. Or it could potentially even be second Ranger Captain, correct? That card's not legendary. Oh, I'm not. No search there, so I'm not too sure what that is. Potentially not relevant. Based on the way this game is going, with a lot of players just putting a lot of triggers and a lot of win cons on the stack. As that will be the end of Sebastian's turn there in the bottom right. Deafening Silence still in effect. Still only one non-creature spell to be casted every single turn by each player. Our Kefka player tapped out. Our Rao player, no cards in hand. Our Blue Farm player, 1 card in hand. That's the turn cycle. Top left and clockwise, as to say. In the bottom left, we'll pass it back over to Kefka. We're in turn 7. We're in round 2. We're seat 3, turn 7. And looks like at the upkeep of the Kefka player, that Mockingbird that was in fact a Ranger Captain of Eos will flash, or correction, will crack itself for non-creature spell silence. So pseudo silence effect, but looks like in response, here comes a Valley Flood Caller from our Kefka player. So that does, if there's a little more here, you know, some sort of retraction helix effect, this will put a win attempt on the stack, because you got to imagine it's coming. You got to imagine that this is not just a Valley Flood Caller, although the caller is very good, giving your non-creature spells flash. And it looks like our players are going to take their time, figure out how they want to proceed in this game. And it looks like second crack of Ranger Captain on top of the Valley Flood Caller, on top of the Ranger Captain. That will finally get it to resolve. Land for turn. Looks like Arena of Glory. Kefka, attack, trigger. Looks like only 3 players able to discard here. We'll see what they are. And 3 cards are ready to go. Let's see. Harmonic Prodigy. It looks like a Culling the Weak and maybe an Entomb. So it should be 2 instant creature. And the comments, alright, Retraction Helix would not have worked, as the Valley Flood Caller would have had Summoning Sickness, but it didn't matter anyways, as a second Ranger Captain does go on the stack. It looks like our players are calling it a draw here, potentially because of time. I believe time has already ended in the round, so potentially because of time, potentially because of how the board state is going and moving around. So it does look like a draw from our players. That was a very intricate, very experienced, high-level game of Magic, so we hope that everyone back home enjoyed that.